So in today's video, we're going to cover exactly how to create a business name for our dropshipping brand. Now, a lot of people spend way too much time on this, and it's just an absolute waste, especially when you're a beginner. Now, if you are becoming experienced and you're very, very confident in that this brand is going to work, you're very confident in the brand positioning and where you're going to take the future development, then obviously you should take a lot of time developing the name, thinking about it, trademarking it, and those kind of things. But for the vast majority of the people watching this, you're going to be a beginner. So the only thing that you need to think about is the DTF framework. So yes, that's my initials as well. I created the DTF framework, but basically it needs to be domainable. So you can actually get the .com, the .co.uk, the .com.au domains. Then it needs to be trademarkable. So we can jump into that in a little bit, but certain names can't be trademarked, like calming blankets. When I launched a weighted blanket called calming blanket, it was too descriptive. It couldn't be trademarkable. It couldn't be trademarked, sorry. So we want to have a think about that as well. And there's some big reasons why we actually need it trademarked. Some people think that they're overrated, but I disagree. It's very, very important that it is at least a potential in the future. We don't need to do it right now, but we just need to make sure that the name actually works. And then we've got flexible. Now, what I mean by flexible is exactly what I was referring to before. Like, you don't want it to be limiting in your ability to launch future products. Calming blankets is another really bad example of that, because we wanted to launch lots of sleep products, but it was called calming blankets. Where if it was called like something like CB or something a bit more just random like that, it would have been much more easy to pivot in the consumer's mind as well. So we just want to make sure that it satisfies all three of those criteria. Now, there's always a question whether you do our branding guidelines before, like the branding positioning before you do the name or after. Most experienced people will do a bit of positioning, make sure they're confident in it, and then they'll pick the name kind of from that process. I'm going to do it the opposite just because it's not that important. I just kind of want to get the name locked in for you guys, and then we can get into the branding guidelines. So how to do this very, very quickly and very, very effectively. We're going to come to ChatGPT and we're going to go and start a new. Pretty much all we need to do is I am creating a business that sells, and we just want to put in what we're selling. So alpaca socks. Now, this is going to give me, at this point, it's going to give me a lot of kind of just alpaca socks variations. It's really not going to be too creative. So we kind of want to think outside the box and just kind of think about some brands that we really love. How do they make us feel? How do they deliver on what they do? So for example, we've got Apple. They're an innovative company. They use technology. They use minimalism. Then we got Coca-Cola. They bring happiness. They bring moments of joy. They're delicious, this kind of thing. So you can kind of just start thinking about how some of these brands are going to look and how your brand's going to look. We're going to do a full process on it, but it's just important that we put it into ChatGPT where we think that it's going to go. So if you really want, you can also do this. If you're really kind of stuck for positioning, you can go, tell me the most famous brands and how they are branded. How do they deliver on that branding? How do customers see the brand? Just something like that. And they'll give you a list of certain ways that brands are positioned. See, Apple, innovative, Nike, high performance. So this will give you some really simple ideas about how you can position your brand, and it does need to be incorporated a little bit into the naming, in my opinion. The more we can give ChatGPT outside of the obvious, the more creative the results will be. So let's go back to this. I am creating a business selling alpaca socks. And now I could even leave out alpaca just because I know how much it's going to absolutely love playing with that keyword, and it's maybe not even necessary, because I remember when we say that it's flexible, I might not always be selling alpaca socks. These alpaca socks might not even work. They might not even sell. So therefore, if my business name was called alpacasocks.com, then how am I going to test the second product on that? Remember, dropshipping, you're not always going to hit the winner on the first product. So we want to, again, keep it flexible. So I'm creating a business selling alpaca socks. I want the brand to be innovative, technology forward, and performance-based apparel. So basically giving it a bunch of more to play with. Create me 10 business name options and check that the .com domain is available. Cool. So, and then I'm just going to send that. Now, I am in experience. I've seen the .com, these .coms be taken a lot. It doesn't seem to manage it too well, but it's better than it coming back with like something like socks.com or something like that. So we've got a bunch of options here. We've got alpaca stride, and you can see how much I've just kind of loved grabbing that alpaca keyword. Let's try just removing alpaca completely. Selling socks with different materials. Let's try that. It's probably just going to grab all over socks. Cool. A nano stride, tech weave, stride smart. So it heavily relies on the 2-word names, which are okay. We can also go create me a business name with 3 words, which probably is going to be way worse, but no, that didn't work. Let's don't just use 2 words, see if that figures that out. Cool. So it's just, you can just play around with this. You could also do, give me some options where it's not just normal words, like you can creative spelling and stuff like that. Generally, you don't want to do too much creative spelling, simply because Google will struggle to, let's say, socks with a Z or something like that. It's going to be confusing. Plus, they can infringe on trademarks a lot. The other thing you can just say is do abstract names like Google. So Google obviously makes no sense. I believe they created Google because it just looked good with 2 O's and G's. I can't actually remember. Don't quote me on that one. But you can see just by creating abstract business names, and it's checking the domains, but you got Sintra, which is cool. So like Sintra.com, like that's going to be taken. I'm certain of it. So how do we check the domains if they're taken? See, ChatGPT is not too great at it. We can just come to Namecheap, which is going to be the domain hosting that I'm going to recommend for you. You can buy the domain directly to Shopify in a later stage, but you want the flexibility. I believe you want the hosting outside of Shopify in case you want flexibility. Let's say you want to move away from Shopify one day, creating emails, all of that kind of stuff. It's just a little bit better. Namecheap is the cheapest option out there. I can leave an affiliate code for you guys as well, but realistically, GoDaddy is okay. We host with GoDaddy as well, but it's been a bit buggy for me at the moment, so I'm a little bit off them. So to find the domains, all we're going to do is we can come in here. This one is Ferrari. Super hard to pronounce. I wouldn't use that, but just checking that there are going to be some. Cool. So these are all kind of taken. A lot of these won't be taken though. If we just come up to here, like active weave definitely will be. But remember, just our DTF framework domain is the first thing. So we just got to check that it's free. The stride. Cool. So these are all still taken. Working through these. Fiberlux. They're all pretty good names. pretty flexible in terms of what we can do. Could test. We could just keep launching different types of socks. We could go into fitness apparel. We could go into any kind of performance-based, which was part of the brief. Sorry, I've already tried that one. Well, that's next low. So probably all of these 3 words will be free. That being said, don't really want them. They're kind of lame. If we can get the .com available, chances are the .co.uk, the .com.au, all of the other domains going to be free. Now, if you're just getting started, you just want to sell to the US, you don't really know what you're doing, you can just buy the .com initially and get launched. And then you can, if you wanted to, you can use a currency converter down the line. We'll get to that point, but yeah, realistically, I do like to have all of the domains free if you're pretty confident in what you're doing. And it also will mean that you're less likely going to get in trouble with a competitor that's already using that name, right? So that's why I'm just going to check. When I do find one that can even get the .com free, I'm going to check all of the other domains as well. So we've got Synthetic Fit, which is pretty terrible name. What about Synth Fit? Cool. $3,000. Let's not use that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come back here and just say, create me 30 business names. And you could have just prompted there just to say, create me 10 more, create me 10 more, create me 10 more. Cool, it's really loving the socks. Sweet, we'll just keep working through these. Next step.com. Probably don't want to use bio simply because people say that's environmental. Technically, it is an environmental product, but we don't want that to define the brand. You know, we just want performance-based at this point. Keep working through them. All fantastic names, but we're just going to keep pushing it until we can find some that are free. Let's try to incorporate. So I'm basically just asking it to incorporate the alpaca material, but be abstract. And it didn't understand what abstract was. There we go. Helen thread, pure weaves. Let's try to see if we can get pure weave. We're not going to get pure weave by itself, but we might get pure weaves. We don't want aura fleece because we want it to be kind of cool. peaktextile.com. So we've finally got one that's available, which is good. I think we will go with Peak Textile for now. It's a pretty good name. It's not ideal, but at the same time, I think it's going to be really good to show you the examples of the next steps. So the next thing we're going to go to is something called trademarkia. Now, the way trademarks work is if I trademarked Udi in the wearable blankets, apparel, slippers category, and someone trademarked Udi in the food category, that is okay. Trademarks are category specific and they're also regional specific. If someone trademarked Udi in, I don't know, some random country that I'm not selling in, have no common usage rights, which means that like I've never been selling there before, chances are that's going to be okay as well. So it's an interesting form of law. But basically what we're looking for to be as safe as possible, and you should get a lawyer to look over any of this stuff, and especially when it comes to legal IP and whatnot. We're looking for someone that a region that has no businesses similar that are selling already within that region as a first step. So the way that I would go about that is I would just write in peak textile, right? And you can see Peak Fabrics since 1990. And you can't see any like Peak Textile Instagrams or anything like that pop up. Now, the next thing, Peak Fabrics, I don't think would infringe, not from a trademark perspective, because they're two different words. Like Peak Fabrics and textile, well, they can mean the same thing. They're still different words. It's very similar to like cleanest dry cleaner versus spotless dry cleaner. They're two different words, even though they can mean the same thing. So from a trademark perspective, you're probably going to be fine. It's when you're impersonating and you do lots of other things that are exactly the same, that can be problematic. So let's say you rip their website completely, you just change one word, you're stealing all of their ads, and the consumer is very, very confused about who's who. That's when you can start to get in a bit of trouble in that area. But realistically, Peak Textile seems like it's okay there. Their website's barely kind of operating, so not too worried about that. So that's when I would come to the trademark search and be like, just because if you do the trademark search first and you search it and nothing comes up, that doesn't mean that it's still okay, because there is something, as I was talking about before, there's common usage rights. So let's say I'm selling Udi in Australia for 3 years and everyone knows Udi branded. Someone can't just come in and just start selling under the Udi. It's much cleaner if I got a trademark initially and made my registration very, very clear. And that's a much better process to do it. But you still have some kind of protection if you don't have the trademark. And that's why I wanted to just search it first before looking at the trademark. So we can just write in Peak Textile here. And you're going to get a bunch of variations. So either the peak. Now, this class and description is kind of what we want to look at, because, this textile, it's software. We're not in software, so it's not too much of an issue. And I think Trademarkia is actually quite good at interpreting different variations. So if you're going to actually use the trademark search tools within like the US government or Australian government, it's really quite difficult, and you kind of definitely want a lawyer to do it, because you need to search like peak first and then different variations of peak, and it's just very, very messy. But this is why I really like this free tool Trademarkia, because it really just kind of interpret different words, and even actually maybe this doesn't, but like phonetically similar as well. So let's say the peak's not a good example, but words like, let's say you've got Udi and then someone changes the name to Udi, like EWDIE. So it's kind of exactly the same phonetically. It's even though it's spelt different, that can infringe as well. And that's where some of these trademark searches can be very, very difficult. So I know this might just be scaring everyone off, but the one thing that we're trying to avoid here is you getting 12 months down the line, scaling your business, everything's going really well. You've invested all this money in packaging, website, domain, this kind of stuff. And a big company goes, oh, we actually can see you now. We're going to get you to change your entire website. So you have to change over your domain. All of your ads that are pushing to your website, the domain will need to be changed there. And it will just kill your momentum completely. So that's pretty much why I'm trying to explain this as detailed as possible, so that doesn't have to happen to you. And then the other reason, like, we want it to be able to be trademarked is because eventually scammers are going to copy your website, your entire website, and they're going to start running ads to stealing either your packaging, stealing your graphics, all of that kind of stuff, stealing your Facebook ads. And if you have a trademark on these things, it's going to be much easier for you to go to Google, go to Facebook, go to Amazon and say, this is my registered trademark with the US government, take this piece of content down, and they'll do it. So this is why we want to make sure that we can get a trademark when we want it. Cool. So going back to this, first thing I'm looking for is someone that just has Peak Textile. If that was there, I'd be pretty worried about that. But these all kind of seem fine. The last thing that I can do is I can just do peak textile trademark, and we can just come into some of these and just have a read of all of this stuff. Like peak clothing, you can come down and sometimes they're not active anymore. So you can see the class status code that is active. Look, I don't think, oh no, sorry, this is a status abandoned, failure to respond or late response. Cool, so they've basically abandoned this one. So that shouldn't be an issue either. And then you can just click through some of these articles. No, I think we're good. I'm just going to simply add this to cart. So basically searching your brand's name, the .com, and they will maybe suggest a couple of other things, but you don't really need this at this point. And then we can click checkout. And we definitely want domain privacy if we can have it as an option, simply because we're going to get a lot of spam emails pitching to create a premium landing page, is what they always say. So then we can just click confirm order. We don't need web hosting or anything. We can create an account. So we do need a Gmail to set up with our email address for this account as well. Then all of the other accounts that we're going to set up after are going to be used with our actual domain name. The Gmail can kind of be your personal thing, but you want to interact all with kind of one branded domain, simply because like maybe you're going to sell the business, maybe you're going to launch another business and you want to keep them all completely separate. So it's a really good habit to get into. Then we can just set this up, put all your details in place. For company name, you don't actually need to put anything in at this point. And we can just use all the defaults here. Click continue. Now, we definitely want to do automatically renew all of our services, because the last thing you want is your Shopify store going down because you failed to pay $10. And click continue. And then we can pay it now. Now that's all done and our account set up, buying new domains is going to be much easier because you kind of just defaults to everything. But if you are very confident in your desire to expand or grow the business, you do want to buy all the other similar domains around it. Now, if you're a beginner, don't do this because probably this isn't going to work the first time, as I said. But one of the other benefits of having all of the other domains is when you start seeing success, a lot of copycats will come up and they'll start copy and pasting your website, your brand name, everything. And by just kind of limiting how many domains that look similar can be really good. It also stops competing brands or similar brands in other regions from even just attempting, even if they don't know about you, launching a brand because you've already owns the domain. So we can just do like peaktextile.co.uk. And we can add that one to cart as well. And we can go through and we can add all of the ones that we want. The next step is we want to set up our email address. So to do this, we're actually what we're going to use is Google Workspace. And so you can just write in Google Workspace and set up here. Click start free trial. And we want to click here with your company, with your .com company address. Click select. Does your business have a domain? Yes, I have one. And we're just going to write in peaktextile.com because we now own that. Click next. Then you're going to enter what you want to create your username as. So mine's going to be my first name @peaktextile.com. Create password. Click I am not a robot. Agree and continue. Cool. Try that one. We're going to skip Gemini. We don't need the AI software at the moment. All we need is a great email, an easy to integrate email. Click I understand. Cool. Now you're in the admin console. So it kind of feels like everything's set up, but it's not at this point. You still need to do one little technical thing. Click next. So we need to verify this domain with Google. Then we can, this is another one of the major benefits of setting up an email in Google Workspace is every time we bring on a virtual assistant or any employees at a later date, we can create a new email for them very, very quickly. And that way, if the VA ever leaves, you've still got access to all the emails, and it's just a really good habit to get into, as I said. The main thing that people usually do is just set up everything in a Gmail, which honestly, if you're a beginner, I guess you could do it, but you're always, if it becomes successful, you're going to wish you did this in the early stages. Click protect. I'm ready to protect that domain. Now, if your screen looks a little bit different to this, you can just search how to connect Namecheap with Gmail, but they always look a little bit similar here. So we need to come back to Namecheap, and we're going to come to dashboard, manage. Guys, I'm a little bit slow today. Sorry, guys. Click advanced DNS. You're going to click a new record. So you can come back here and go to step 2. And it's going to tell you to add a text record from here. And you're just going to copy and paste this value here. And you're going to scroll down to text at. So all I'm doing here is I'm copying this host record, this text value, putting it here, and then I should be able to click save all changes. Just make sure it hasn't changed since I last did it. Cool, that's done. And then I should just be able to click protect domain and should pick it up. It might take a little while. The other reason why you really need this domain and you shouldn't just use a Gmail is because when you set up your email marketing, it's really good to kind of have that all set up appropriately. So it's not coming from a Gmail because they go straight to spam. So when we do abandoned cart emails, all of this kind of stuff, you're going to need a branded email. Cool. This might take 5 minutes, but realistically, that's it. Now I can go onto Google and Gmail. I can use other email services that integrate with Gmail, and I can just sign in. Easy as that. So in today's video, I'm going to cover how to create a brand for your dropshipping store. Now, I'm not just talking about pretty colors, logos, beautiful website. That is very surface level of what a brand actually is. A while back, there was a brand that was dropshipping. Well, they might have not been dropshipping, but they were extremely direct response. Their websites looked really, really almost scammy, and everyone was like, this can never be a brand because of they didn't have a pretty website and they didn't do all of the really kind of Gen Z design stuff. Fast forward, and this is now a multi-$100 million brand that is talked about by Joe Rogan and some of the major health people because the product was so good, because what the brand strategy was so good. And this is Athletic Greens. Now, every kind of dropshipping business has the potential to be a brand in itself. Dropshipping is a delivery mechanism. It's not a death sentence for brands, because I've even bought from Apple. I bought some headphones recently and they drop shipped it from China. The reason why that drop shipping products sometimes don't become a brand is 1, because the product sucks. 2, they don't stand for anything. And 3, the service is terrible. And we're going to try to mitigate all 3 of those things. But the thing that I wanted to talk about in today's video, it was what does the actual brand stand for? How are we going to differentiate ourselves from the competitors to stand out in our consumers' minds whenever they need a solution to the product the brand stands for? And this is what a brand really is. Like, there's some really good quotes here. Like, a brand is the set of expectations, memories, stories, and relationships that taken together account for a consumer's decision to choose one product versus the other. So we've got a bunch of competitors for the hoodie that sell a similar product. Granted, less quality because they have to drop ship it and it's too heavy to do that. When a consumer sees the hoodie versus the competitor that has no brand, the hoodie and everything that we do is to create moments of comfort and joy for the consumer. So when then they see all of our supporting assets and everything that we do prior to the purchase, and then they're comparing to buy the competitor versus ours, even if ours is slightly more expensive, they're going to purchase ours because they know that they're going to get a moment of comfort through the product. And that's what a brand is. So there are so many different ways to push your brand. And it doesn't matter what type of product that has. There's probably like 5 very valid ways to brand that product in a different way that probably your competitor hasn't stand for. And it's similar to how I keep talking about positioning. Like you've got to kind of consider that. Now, a lot of kind of people that are familiar with dropshipping will be like, oh, I'm going to skip this video. I don't need this video. Let me tell you why branding is important, like from a performance point of view. The first thing a brand is going to do is going to get you cheaper acquisition. And I can hear a lot of people that are very experienced saying like, no, branding is going to be limiting. I want to be able to make any ad that converts. It's not true. Like you look at all of the people drop shipping a teeth whitening product at the moment and look at their CPA, their cost of acquisition versus someone like HighSmile that has a brand. I can guarantee you HighSmile is better. They're spending way more. They're going to do $1 billion of revenue, hopefully. They're crushing it. So that's what a brand can do. The second thing a brand can do is it gives you a lot of direction in what secondary products you should be launching under the brand. Because if you're selling, alpaca socks, and if we're going to push the alpaca socks in the branding direction of hiking, it's not going to make any sense if we brought out some like running shoes or something like that. Whereas if we pushed it down the branding route of looking after the feet or something like that, like chiropractic, scientific, foot health, then suddenly a shoe does make sense. And this is the brand needs to be kind of defined so that you can do that. Because what we're doing with that secondary product is we're leveraging the emotional connection that we've already created with the first consumer, with their first purchase, with the first product, and then leveraging that for the second one. So the final reason is word of mouth referral. And a lot of people ask me, why Audio was so successful. And part of the reason was because the brand was creating so much joy in people that they were telling their friends about it. So I could acquire one customer and they would tell maybe 0.2, 0.3 extra customers. I don't have the actual facts, but that's what I think was happening. And I think that that's a really good reason. So if you're a drop shipper that just doesn't ever want to understand about brand, you're going to be limited. As I grow older and wanting to hit new heights, I realized that kind of brand is the only thing. Brand is the only true moat in e-commerce. Systems, processes, patents, trademarks, all of this kind of stuff, they are just kind of finite. And Warren Buffett is one of the best people that talks about this. And he will only invest in something that has a really, really strong brand and a really strong leader. So if it's good enough for Warren, it's good enough for me. I remember chatting to Simon Beard, who's created an incredible brand. He's one of my friends, Culture Kings. He exited for 600 million. He said, a brand is earned in drips and lost in buckets. And I think that really reinforces the requirement to have consistency amongst the brand. So how do we get consistency? Well, first we need to define it. And this is what I'm going to teach you today. I'm going to give you a free template. Join the Discord or head to millionaires.com to check out this template and download it. And yeah, we can kind of go through all of these things. Now, this is the template. It might be on a different format. It's on Figma right now. I don't know how easy that is for everybody to use, but this is my creative director at Udi created this for us. She's incredible and knows her stuff. So what we want to create here is a branding deck. Now, this branding deck will help us define everything. But if you ever hired an email agency or if you ever needed to build a website or something like that, and you hired someone to do it, you would send them this branding deck because it really defines a lot of the things that you stand for. You can even show it to potential employees, all of that kind of stuff. So it's a really, really important resource to have. So we're just going to add our brand name here. So next we got this brand overview, which I'm actually going to do last. I'm going to leave that one here. And I'm going to go across this brand strategy because I think this is a great place to start. So we're going to fill in the answer to these questions. Now, if you're new to branding, this is going to feel really overwhelming. If you're not a creative person, it's going to feel really overwhelming and you're just going to have no idea what to kind of write here. But that's where ChatGPT and a couple of hacks that I'm going to show you today come in real handy. So the purpose, what's the greater good behind your work? So we're selling alpaca socks at the moment for the cold, for traders, for potentially hikers. I don't know the exact positioning that's going to work the best. When we create Facebook creators and create landing pages, I do want it to be relatively versatile in these early stages within building this brand so that I'm not limiting myself when I find the right avatar and I find the right positioning for my brand. Some people, like a little bit more experienced people or someone that's more branding orientated, will set this at the start, know exactly what the openings are in the market and smash it from a branding perspective and will not stop until they get it right. Think of Steve Jobs. He was like, everyone was like, nobody's going to buy a $1,500 phone. Nobody's going to buy a computer like this. It looks weird. It's a closed ecosystem. This is never going to work. And it didn't for so long. It was absolutely getting hammered. And so many people were constantly saying that they needed to sacrifice a lot of their brand values. He would absolutely not do that. He was so religious and dogmatic and pushing it forward with that branding, and it obviously paid off. You are not Steve Jobs. At this stage, you want to keep your branding versatile and you want to define a few core principles and at least start this. But then when you get a winning creative that might be for mums rather than for young Gen Z, suddenly that might shift a lot of the stuff that you're doing. But we can at least start making some assumptions. So what's the greater good behind your work? So we want to create extremely comfortable and technical textiles. See how that's versatile? I can go into sportswear. I can go into more different types of socks. Very, very different. So vision, what will your brand look like in 5 to 10 years time? A multi-category e-com store with lots of cool. Just shrink this one down. So I've got a multi-category e-com store with lots of different technical apparel endorsed by experts. Let's say you don't understand what purpose and vision actually is. So we want to come to ChatGPT and let's say we're selling something else. Let me give you something. The sauna t-shirts that I was going to sell. Let's go, what are some branding? And we can just go purpose, brand. What are some brand examples for purpose and vision that's of major brands that could be applicable to my brand that is selling sauna shirts? Actually, let me just do alpaca socks. I don't know why I'm going back to those. So a bunch of examples are going to pop up. So we've got Patagonia. We're in the business to save our home planet. Vision, to be a responsible company that supports environmental and sustainability, and applicability, which is emphasize the eco-friendly aspect. So it's actually giving me an example that I could use, but see how easy that was to kind of get a bit of a brand value for that exact product. So it's talking about the sustainability practices of alpaca fibers. Like that's going to be a completely different brand to what I'm talking about from a technical apparel element. But at the same time, it's still going to be really, really cool. Like you can change all of the ads. Like it would definitely work as well. But let me just give you another one. Ben & Jerry's purpose, to make the best possible ice cream in the nicest possible way, to create high quality products while promoting social. So this is all about product quality as well, which is a good value. One thing that you'll notice even on this branding template is just using existing brands is really, really helpful to actually push you forward. Now, there are some already brands on this template that can help you understand. So we've got in here, we've got provide structure. Actually, probably just look at these colors. We've got innovation, safety, knowledge, freedom, liberation, power, mastery, intimacy, pleasure, belonging, service, control. They are just great keywords that could summarize so many brands. Like we've got, like innocent, safety, Dove. Makes sense. Maybe you're in the beauty space and that's kind of where you want to go. Maybe you want to go power magician in the beauty space, and that's going to be like Truly Beauty. Like that's probably more where they line up. There obviously are like explorer, freedom. That's the typical way that someone would brand a product that I'm doing. But maybe what I'm trying to do is I'm looking at creator, innovation, and I want to be more like Apple through this textile product, because this is probably where my competitors already are. This is where my competitors are thinking, probably explorer, maybe like outlaw and liberation is where they're kind of sitting. So if you have, we can go back to our competitor sheet that we've done and we've analyzed, or we can even just look at some brands that we really, really like and try to apply their framework to ours, because chances are there's going to be a customer set that kind of appreciate it. So check out this as well. But yeah, realistically, we can kind of go through here. Rather than go through step by step, I'm going to just kind of go through the rest of the sheet and talk about it. So we've got values. What are some beliefs that you stand for, which is like innovation, high quality products, science, that kind of stuff. Audience, what's your ideal customer look like? It's just like anyone that really wants to enhance their performance. Yeah, so I'm going to keep it open to hikers and people that, may be training as well. So I'm going to keep that really open. Market, why should your audience choose you over your competitors? Because we're going to have higher quality products, but we're also going to be more committed to the actual science behind the product as well. Goals, what are your goals of your brand? So that you can probably leave that initially. I would say mine could be like to invent a new sock or something like that. Personality, if it was your brand was a person, who would it be? And again, I'd probably use ChatGPT for that. Right now, I could say Steve Jobs. Voice, if your brand was human, how would it speak to the audience? Like a scientist. Visual identity, how does your brand visually make its customers feel? Which is probably more a little bit like Apple. So when we come to Apple, now, one thing that is really, really good to do is add visual references from brands that you love. And to do that, we either use Pinterest or we use just going to the website. So you look at some of this imagery here, and we can put this imagery on the branding template itself. There should be a place for example imagery. So this is the visual mood board. So we can start chucking pictures here, because we're going to have our logo, brand marks, and this is just going to be a really great place to screenshot and send to these developers that I was kind of talking about. When we come into these product pages, they're wild. They're really cool. Like this. So cool. So just screenshotting some imagery here. Close-up images. Then we can come to Pinterest, as I said. Go high-tech branding. And it will give you some really good examples. The other one is actually Behance is really cool for this. Come into Behance. And we can go search. High-tech branding. Let's do branding deck. And you can come into some of these. Oh, that sucks. That's a website. Sort by most appreciated. And we can come into some of these. We can just see some of the branding decks. Like this is even for like logo options. Let me do technology, product, imagery. And see, Behance has some really good examples. So like even this is really cool. Cool. And you can see how the brand's starting to take shape visually. I'm a very visual person rather than, I don't really like just reading about brands. I like to see them. So let's come back to Pinterest and I'll show you a few more. So you can see here, AI monitoring. You do high tech, technology logo. See if that comes up with anything cool. Get rid of apparel. So we kind of want a mixture of like things that can go on the website, product imagery. The other thing that we want is lifestyle shots. So, because lifestyle shots are such an integral part, like if we come to the hoodie, they're such an integral part of most people's branding. So we're actually quite branded nowadays, but let me find some examples. So like these are more lifestyle shots. Let me get one that will have more lifestyle shots. That's a bit more of a lifestyle shot. There we go. So like this kind of stuff is really, really important as well. Now, I would screenshot and put this on there because it looks great, but it's not really the vibe that I'm looking for. That's more so streetwear. It's a little bit cooler. It's a little bit too lifestyle. So probably don't want to grab that. But we can find a few more lifestyle. Might be able to find some examples here. So it's a bit too vintage for me. Cool. I think that looks pretty good. Lululemon might be actually a really good comparative brand. Let's take a look at Lululemon. Lululemon's actually not too big in Australia. We're not really huge, and I don't really know what the brand stands for. Looks pretty cool. Very clean. Minimalist. But yeah, realistically, let me just check. I think I'll keep walking you through certain things, just how to use the sheet so you guys can keep filling it out. Brand purpose. Brand purpose is like, why does your brand need to exist? And brand strategy is kind of like how you're going to achieve it, if that makes sense. So you can fill that one out, and there's no next explanation needed there. That's very similar to the other one. We got action verbs here, which is really kind of similar to what I was talking about before with the archetypes, like the types of brands that people can be, but also just like how you're going to do it as well. So we're going to connect with people. We're going to teach, those kind of things. And you can start grabbing some of those to good reminders. Purpose statement is kind of similar to what we had before. It can feel a bit like it's repeating itself, but they're all, a branding expert will hear me say that and they're going to absolutely slaughter me. But at the same time, I'm definitely not a branding expert. But there are going to be some small differences, and there's no harm in kind of repeating yourself. So brand vision is really cool. So you can write now, I'm going to launch an alpaca sock 5 years. Obviously, I'm not going to launch this brand for 5 years. I've got plenty of other things to do and I just want to teach you guys. But yeah, you could do 5 years, launch your own sneaker, work with Huberman, I don't know, work with a celebrity, and that will give you a little bit of vision. Now, brand values. So you're putting negative. I actually really like this one. So this is very similar to what we were doing before with like finding the consumer, using Reddit, how do they actually feel, those kind of things. But writing in these negative and positive experiences, like my feet were freezing on a hike, I thought I was going to get frostbite, or positive, I didn't get any blisters when I was doing a hike. That's a really good one. And then negative feeling is a fear to get a blister. Positive might be I was very confident before I went on to my walk. That kind of stuff. Identifying those feelings and experiences are always going to be worthwhile because you recreate them in ads and you recreate them on landing pages. We've got core values here. This is another, I definitely scroll down to this kind of before you do the sheet. Hopefully I haven't been doing it alongside with me. Apologies if you have, but there's some really good kind of keywords here as well about what the brand can be. And you can just add 3 to 5 there. Tone of voice. Tone of voice is really important. We kind of said it a little bit before, but Aloe Yoga, as I said before, is probably a bit more trendy, whereas we might want to be a little bit more professional. Actually, there's professional. Yeah, there's professional there. The competitive landscape, you can do this if you want. There's not too many competitors at this point for this, but you can chuck them in there and then put yourself in to make sure that you are really different to them from a branding perspective. And then we got target persona. We can have a play with this about what type of a customer is. I think this is all getting a little bit too granular when you're first starting now, simply because the persona really may change the customer. And then we've got audiences. I think that you can probably leave that as well. We're just going to do broad targeting. We're going to test a bunch of creatives. And then we get to this visual mood board, which I'm going to keep filling out because next up, we're going to make our logo and we're going to get started on the design element. Logos are incredibly important for successful businesses, but for startups, they're just another step that we need to do quite quickly. We shouldn't get sued doing it. And then we want to keep it versatile, similar to just names in general, because we just don't know if this is going to work. So we don't want to waste too much time doing it. But overall, just so you understand, logos are incredibly important for successful businesses because they really embody the emotion that you're trying to portray through your brand. For example, the Amazon logo, it's A to Z, and it's also got a smile underneath, which represents the fact that they stock everything from A to Z, and their main focus is to create satisfaction for their customers and make them happy. Then you've got the Adidas and Nike logos that may look different to each other, but they're both, the Adidas logo is slightly slanted. The swoosh represents movement. This is a sports brand. So you can see as these brands become bigger, they really do embody the meaning of their logo. But at the same time, the Nike logo was drawn just by a graphic designer, $10 in the early stages. So we do want to keep it quite lean and dirty at the start. But there's going to be 2 methods that I show you. Now, one of them is completely free and one of them is going to cost a little bit of money. I probably prefer the one that costs just a little bit of money because it's so quick and so easy and it probably saves me a bit of time. But if you have creative skills and understand a bit of creativity and maybe you've done some graphic design in school or something, just use the free method. So the first method that we're going to use, so we've got our branding document here, which is actually a really good place to start with kind of how the logo should make us feel, what it should embody. Because we've already defined that with this brand, we want to do a little bit more tech orientated kind of performance apparel. So that refines it. And we've even got a couple of examples here. So I'm just going to go into this tool. So it's called Looker, and it's getting better and better with all the AI advancements. And we can just go peak textile. And we can go apparel, we'll go fitness apparel. and you can just select a couple of logos that we like. Now, it's worth going through a bit of logo theory. So we've got the logo mark here, and then we've got the type font here. So we've got two components of a logo. Now, this logo mark is sometimes way too complicated. We want to keep it minimal. We want to keep it versatile here. Otherwise, we're going to get into the logo needs to be so versatile across the header bar of the website, the emails, any other marketing that we're kind of doing on the packaging, this kind of stuff. So the less complicated it is, the better, in my opinion. And I actually don't mind when they're actually it's just kind of two fonts, especially because my brand name is actually 2 words. This could be a really good design. So if you've got 1 word, you should probably be looking at something like this and making sure that there's a type font, but a logo mark, sorry. But if you've got 2 words, this can be a really nice design. And 3 words, we probably don't want a brand name. It's too long. So we can just go into a couple of minimal things like this that we like, that just kind of catch our eye, and click next. Now, I'm going to talk about colors in a little bit for our branding, but for now we can just do grayscale. We can do maybe, you can look at the actual definitions of the colors. Cool. And we don't have a slogan here. It's probably not necessary. Cool. Select a few things here, and it's going to pump out a few logos. And just keep scrolling down until you see something that you like. And favorite them. We're really trying to look at them in 2 different components. So again, the actual icon itself and the text. If we like the text for something, we can probably just move forward with that, and we can change the icon at a later date. Cool. So I've got a couple of logos that I like. We can go to your logos and have a play around with these. See what they kind of look like. So it actually looks pretty good. We can change this symbol. Now, again, we're kind of looking for certain elements within our branding that, we talked about before, like these kind of keywords, these key action verbs could definitely kind of lean us towards a certain movement or a certain way that people feel that we can try to get within our symbol. So like if we were going to do a waterproof product, that might make sense. The fact that there's hollow fibers within the alpaca, you can kind of see that, and it's represented within the triangle. Just kind of looking for that a bit more abstract meaning, the way that the textiles actually interlink together. Now I'm relatively happy with that. Now I can click download, and I can preview the brand kit as well, which is kind of similar to what we were making back here. Now in the brand kit, we can check out a couple of things that we might want to use and just see how it kind of goes across all of these mediums. So for example, whereas newsletters, we can go into this and we can see kind of how the font that they're kind of pairing is going to work on our emails, just to give us some good idea. Is this kind of what we're after? And, when we look at, I'll just screenshot this. Maybe go these 2 and bring it back here and put it here. We can kind of see that the logo itself plays quite well into this feeling. Now, all we need to do is we can actually just purchase that now. And you can download just the logo package if you don't need the brand kit. Probably I'm just going to do that because I'm going to customize all of the other stuff at a later date. So we probably want the multiple formats. I can go through and purchase this. But for those people that are working on a huge budget, let's go through and show you the other tool that you can kind of set up. So we can go to Canva, which is going to be your best friend going forward. So we can just sign up for a free trial to Canva. So now we're in Canva. All we need to do is create a design and go logo. One mistake that I often see people make, and it's probably the same with Looker, that you just might want to consider is if you use any of these elements, and Looker, the public information that they say is they can't give legal advice, but I assume that they are in a similar situation where to try to trademark just this diamond or this text in itself, they already own it. Someone else has created that. So it's going to be a little bit difficult to get those unique elements trademarked. Now, the combination of it all and the actual word mark might be trademarkable, but if we were to use this mountain, for example, this might, it might be a little bit difficult. Like a drop shipper might be able to use that mountain in their design. They can't say peak textile as well if that got trademarked, but it's not a huge amount of protection. Now, if we were to use something like shapes, for example, we can come into here. I don't know, this is going to look terrible, but like, let's say we create a unique pattern like this, for example, and we're combining certain shapes and we make it a little bit more complex with like a P and a T or something like that. Then suddenly that might become unique to you and trademarkable. And this is where using shapes versus elements can often be a much more protectable and safe way to go about things. Now, I'm not a graphic designer, so if I tried to create something like this, it's obviously terrible. So when I use Canva rather than Looker, I really rely on these designs. So we can just go write in some styles. So we can look at something like this. When I'm looking at these templates, I'm identifying how little I have to change them so that I don't break them. Because if I go into something like, let's say this, first of all, this is a much more creative, a bit more along the lines of Disney's logo. So I know that I now need to change that text. As soon as I do that, that is like the most visible part, the most encompassing part of that logo. So it's more likely I'm going to break it as a non-creative person. So you're much better looking at the length of your logo and trying to find something that kind of matches it. So we've got two words. We've got one short word, one a little bit longer word, and we don't have a slogan. So that's kind of the requirement that we're looking for as we look through these logos. We'll go simple. So again, this is a little bit, it's 3 words, but we can just have a play around with the font. So it's a little bit too minimal for me. Cool. These are all too simple. So we'll go to other templates. Try fitness. They're probably going to be too gym bro. Cool. Let's go innovative. Cool. Let's get rid of them all together and have a look through some of these. They look good. This will be a little bit interesting. So let's try Canva Pro so we can access some of these ones. Obviously, you can keep Canva free and use it without upgrading. So it is still a free method for you, but I just want to test this one because it looks a bit better. Cool. So again, I had to change way too much and kind of broke it. It's also not that aligned with our brand. I'm just going to keep going through here. See, one thing that you can do is, let's say I wanted this to be my mark, and come over back to here, and you'll see that we have the brand marks, but then we can also have the logo itself. And you can see how those two interact. Now, I think they're way too different. I think that you'd be better off doing something like this for the top mark and just closing that gap. But again, I think I'm just changing too much. We're going to find the perfect one by being patient. I might show you guys how to hire a graphic designer as well if you guys want to really excel with the branding piece and the design piece. We could try this. Doesn't actually look half bad. Cool. I think we can, I'll find one more just as an option, and then I'll show you the next steps. Let's try text logo. This is pretty minimal. Let's try something like this. So I actually don't mind this combination. It's a little bit like skater, a little bit more earthy, but I think it looks pretty cool. We'll just change the colors and see what it looks like. Look, we've kind of got 3 options there, but let me show you the next steps of what we need to do to make sure that it's conducive with the rest of the design. Now, the rest of the design, what I mean by that is like everything else you see on the website. So let's say, for example, we want to use this, this logo. We also want to understand the pairing fonts that we're going to use with it and also the color palette. So let's go into a new page and we can come into Canva's tool here and go into font combinations. Now we can look at this font, Archivo, just to make sure that it's kind of pairing. We're trying to find a header text and header to text and maybe a tertiary text as well. These are all pretty crazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write Proxima because we got Proxima Nova. And I'm always pretty happy with that font. It's available on Shopify. But we can just go here and do font pairings as well. The Canva ones weren't that good. And we can just go to this one. I can click through and it's going to give us a bunch of options. Go more pairs, scroll down. So this is a decent one. We're just trying to find one that matches the brand. Like that looks pretty good. Honestly, that looks pretty cool as well. So we can just grab these fonts. Actually, I don't like this secondary font. That's going to be where the most, it's not a head to, sorry, it's a paragraph. So let's just change this one because we want it to be really simple to read because this is going to be the main one across the product descriptions, all of that kind of stuff. Let's try this. Cool. So something like that looks pretty good. Worst case, we could just use both Proxima Nova because it's available on Shopify. But you can just start to define your brand a little bit more. So we've kind of got our typeface there. Now all we need to do is get our color palettes. Now there's a few ways we can do this. Again, back to good old Pinterest. So we can write in innovative color palette. We can have a look at some of these examples. They're all a little bit colorful for me. Something like that is actually pretty cool. Just put this into Canva, chuck it here just so I have reference. When I come back to here and looking at all of these example boards, they're much more monotone. So I kind of want one that's a little bit more gray. The final free tool, sorry, I'm jumping around a bit, aren't I? But is this colors, it's pretty good. Super easy to use. And we can just generate. So all we need to do is click through space and change them. I believe there's a way that you can change one color as well and then the rest. So what I'm going to do here is change this one. Nah. Let's keep clicking through and find something. So one of the problems with sometimes with these colors is you don't have a variation where white text will work on it. You need both. You need a color where white text will work on it and black text will work on it. So like you can see white text would work on none of these colors, which is like problematic. So we want to keep clicking through. Sweet. I'm going to go gray color palette in Pinterest. Try to find, see, I mean, this is pretty cool. Actually quite like this. So let's grab this one and pull this over and decide between the two. I'm probably going to go more so this color palette. So let's say we want to edit this and save all of these colors and get the hex code. We come into brand and we can come into here and we click edit. We click the plus to add the colors and we simply click there. Now we've got the hex code. We can save that color as well. We can save all of the colors that we like. Oops, I already grabbed that one, didn't I? Oh, I know, they're just very similar. We probably don't even need that secondary color, to be honest. We'll probably only need these three. Cool. I think that's fine. I just don't like flush black. We always just want it to be a little bit like that. And then I can save that. Now we've kind of got our color palettes here, which are very easily editable. So I can even change this logo if I wanted to. I can change the color here to our brand colors. This is going to look bad, but I'll just show you how it looks. And we can just kind of change it like that. We can even pull this across once we've finalized it, which I'm not 100% sure which one I'll go for, but something like this, and save across the colors as well. Now, one other good habit to get into is just grabbing this code and going like this. God, anyone that's very, very good at Canva would be doing that, pulling out their hair, but I hope they're not watching this module because it's a waste of their time. But we can also go. Now, we can just apply all of these colors to it so that we know that wasn't that color, was it? It was more that one. Cool. So that one. And then this one as well. We're just grabbing the actual hex code. So if we need it at a later date, and this one as well. I'm just double clicking on that just to grab it. And we can just copy and paste these across. You get the idea. You just really want to make sure that you have the colors very easy to grab so that you can just grab that hex code in Klaviyo when we set up emails, when we get into Shopify, and you can easily paste them across. But I'm going to tinker around with this. I think that's everything that you guys need to know. I'll pick a logo and I'll see you in the next module. Alrighty, in today's video, we're going to cover how to create user-generated content for things like Facebook ads. We might also use some of the stuff on the website. Now, this is one of the most important videos out of this whole series, and I think it's definitely where a lot of people go wrong within their building their brand. User-generated content kind of came onto the scene probably, I would say 5 years ago. It started to really absorb the majority of the budget within the Facebook ad accounts. Now, what user-generated content is, if you go onto Facebook, and you check out any major kind of brands like Woody or all of these other people, you'll see that a lot of the content it's similar to influencer content where they're holding the phone, talking about the product, talking about the value propositions of the product. Now, the reason why it works so well is because it feels like your friend is telling you something about the product, and it matches the formats of other social media posts within the platforms themselves. So it's less about being sold to, more about being educated. Now, a lot of brands get this wrong because they will not create enough user-generated content. They won't brief in the creators well. So I'm going to walk you through the entire process about how to find user-generated creators specifically. Then I'm going to cover kind of how to pay them, how to brief them in, pretty much everything that you're going to need to know. So the first option to find user-generated content is we can actually just go into Twitter or even Instagram, and we can just write in UGC creator. Now we can click search and we can go people. Now what you're going to get is just a bunch of UGC creators that are already putting their name into UGC creator because that allows people to be discovered. Now, probably Instagram may be a better one, but I'm not not 100% sold on that. So we can just click into these guys and basically review their content. They should have if they're any good, they're going to have a portfolio that you can kind of click into, or just at least understand their quality of the creative. So we can just unmute this.
And the feature that just replied is called their AI that. Simply improve.
Now, what are we looking for? The first, we're looking for a really, just generally, how does the content look? If it's terrible lighting, if it's terrible audio, if they don't captivate you in the first 3 seconds, then they just don't know what they're doing. The next thing that we're looking at is how are they actually presenting the information? Is it kind of convincing? Does it emotionally move you? Some of them can be very robotic about the script or about the brief, and we really don't want that. Generally, all of their creatives, any good UGC creator is going to have some really good points, and it's going to kind of convince you. So her content is incredible. And you can see that she's also doing a few different formats as well, which I think is really great, because these creators, they should be so obsessed with the platforms and the results that they're bringing. So creative diversification is a big point for them. So if all of their creatives look exactly the same, you can kind of guess that you're not going to get much variety, which, it's not always a deal breaker if the creatives are good, but I like to see when they do have a bit of variety. So we've got this one, fast, quick hook. So she gets it as well. We can go to some of her brands. That was her promoting herself. You can see how she's talking with so much emotion, and, she's talking with her hands, and it's instantly going to kind of captivate you. So we can kind of go through these. All of these have looked really, really good, and we can select some. Now, how do we reach out to these people? Well, anyone that wants to be contacted is going to have their email available. So you can simply copy and paste this email, and we can start grabbing a bunch of these emails. So I'm just starting a new document here. Let's go. I'll just include the link as well. Let's just grab a couple. And I'll grab this one as well. Because these were like the number one and they've got a fair few followers, there is a good chance that they will be quite expensive. So that's why I'm just going to make sure that I grab a few of them. Cool. She looks good as well. She wants you to DM, so I can just put this and go right in DM. Sweet. You can go to their website and look at all of their creatives, but realistically, we want to get a decent size list here. Now, in a second, we're going to write this creator brief to actually contact all of these creators. But before I do that, I want to cover some other ways that we can actually get user-generated content, because I think it's really important. There's tools such as Star Now, that's predominantly Australia, I believe, and then Backstage as well. These tools allow us to actually hire actors rather than hire UGC creators. Now, if you think about what a UGC creator really is, someone that, passionate about the product, but also is convincing, can understand how to incorporate words into making someone take action. Actors are great at that. And believe it or not, actors can often be much, much cheaper than UGC creators, because UGC creators are very tied to the money that brands are creating. So people are willing to pay them more. Whereas actors, they generally don't have that social media background initially. So they can't edit these videos into these great formats. And they need a lot more kind of coaching through the process. But when you would hire an actor is probably when, let's say you're selling, like I've used this example a couple of times, but like a big kayak or something like that, something where you don't want to send them a $1,500 product and you kind of only have one or two products initially, and you're just like, look. Or the other reason you might do this is when it's really complicated, the actual shooting process as well, because you want to be there to manage it. If you have no skills in social media, if you have no skills in Facebook advertising, and you're kind of just getting started, I do highly recommend you use either a UGC creator that knows what they're doing, because remember, when you close the skill gap by using experienced people, there's less room for error. There's a time and a place where you want to trial and error and you want to learn it yourself and get involved. But I don't want you to create a brand and create a product and then wonder, maybe my creatives are just terrible, which is obviously one of the main reasons why people actually fail. So I don't want you taking too much of a risk here. I think I would prefer to use a UGC creator if you've got budget. Now, if you have no budget, you're going to be wanting to do this yourself. You are the creator. I obviously don't want to be the creator because I think I'm just going to create a video and everyone's going to see my face and they're going to buy it. And then it's just going to be unfair. It's going to not be true results. So, but realistically, you can be the UGC creator initially. If not, you can hire these guys if you've got a budget. The only other form, which is if you've got even more budget and less time and you don't want to brief in people, is using a UGC agency, which we've used a lot throughout our brands, especially to get volume through. Now, I can leave a couple of recommendations of UGC creators in the course itself. But yeah, realistically, you're basically paying an agency to handle the briefing, handle the sourcing. So obviously it's going to cost you a little bit more, but I do highly recommend that if you've got budget and you just kind of want to move fast. But I'm going to keep showing you how to actually reach out and interact with these people because I think that's a skill that's going to be most valuable to you all. So I've got 3 contact details here. I'm going to, of course, flesh this out at a later date. But we want to build out this brief to make sure that people know what they're signing up for. So the brief is kind of in line with the core reasons around why a UGC piece of content will work and not work. And some creators work really well with being really flexible. And you're like, here's my website, here's my product, go make me an amazing ad. I don't want to leave that much up to chance initially, especially with kind of a newish product. So you're really wanting to understand the deliverables, the core content, and probably the core content messaging is a better way to say it. The hook variations, which is the first 3 seconds, because we can create different variations within the hook to make sure that, let's say one didn't work, we could just sub that 3 seconds in for another ad and run that as well. I've seen, sometimes hooks can determine whether it works or doesn't work. We've got the brand do's and don'ts as well, which we're going to fill out in a second, which is somewhat obvious. And then we've got usage rights as well. Now, these are all things that we can prompt in rather than, we never want to use a script, in my opinion, unless it's a very, very kind of long video. By using a script, we're going to get rid of the main benefit of what UGC actually is, which is like, it feels authentic. It feels like the actual words. And you kind of want it to be the actual words as well, to some degree. You want them to have the product and actually be talking about it in the way that they would talk about it. So I've got this template here with what we're going to be filling out. The first one is deliverables. So for example, we've got, 3 hook variations, between 30 and 60 seconds long of footage. And then we've also got lifestyle shots as well, which is sometimes you don't need those, especially if you're established, but we're a new brand. So we're going to try to get as much as we can take. And yeah, we can add all of these guidelines. Don't add text or captions in your video. This will allow you to have optimal freedom at a later date. All of this stuff, like recording and good lighting and quality, is definitely a given for the good creators. But if you pick a bad creator, trust me, they'll forget that. And by just explicitly saying things that are obvious, kind of cover you down the line and just reminds them as well. And it shows that you know what you're doing. Don't use any licensed music in the background. We can actually put these more so in the do's and don'ts. So it probably should be there. Sweet. Then the core content. So this is where we're explaining the basis of the concept and doing loose scripts. So for us, it's going to be the main problem might be blisters when hiking, and the product is using alpaca to therefore solve that. That may be the core fundamental part of one piece of creative. Now, in that piece of creative, do we suddenly want to go, hey, this is a great at-home compression sock for something like diabetes or something random like that? No, they're completely different ads for completely different avatars. We need to really think about who is this creative for and make sure that we're briefing in our UGC creator. One, we're picking the right avatar that's the right UGC creator for that. There's no point me getting a 14-year-old kid that's like hiking Mount Everest or something like that. That's stupid. Whereas if I want to find maybe like someone that you could picture hiking Mount Everest to do that creative. And I'm briefing them in for that type of creative. So really important that we kind of select the right thing there and then outline it within the brief. And this is why sometimes just giving them the website, no brief is kind of just, you're going to burn some cash. And then the hook as well. Now, I've had positive and negative effects scripting in the hook. I think that sometimes really good UGC creators can actually create new hooks that I couldn't even think of. But it's probably good for you to have a think about a couple of hooks. And whenever you're briefing in hooks, don't just look at competing brands and try to adapt them and make them creative for your brand. Like, look at completely adjacent businesses like the Oodie, like some of these big competitors, like High Smile, like Ridge, all of these guys, and study their hooks because maybe they're even better. And then you can adapt them. Yeah, we're just briefing in the type of hook. Like, is it a voiceover? Is it showing using the product? And then we've got our do's and don'ts, which I have kind of covered, but I'll just go through them because we're not rushed for time. We got removal tags and packaging of products. You know, maybe you actually want the packaging of the product, which you can outline there. Keep a clean shooting area. That's obvious. Don't overemphasize your feedback or review. Like, that's just so it's not like, you know, cringe. And then recording good lighting. Then we've got also don't film with background noise. Have other brands. So like logos. You know, if maybe they're wearing a Patagonia jacket and we don't want that. I'm not too worried about that in this one. Yeah, so that's realistically all of it. Now, one thing, if you are really struggling to find creators, even though it's that simple, maybe they're just too expensive or nobody's replying to you, I will set up in the Millionaire Discord a creator channel where you can find work or even at work as a creator. So make sure you kind of go check that out as well. So now we're over to our deliverables now for our actual alpaca socks. How are we going to brief this in? So the deliverables, what I really want is I want 3 times hook variations. I also want 3 times creative angles. Actually, I'll just call them ad angles for, 20 to 60 seconds. And then we will also have some lifestyle imagery. iPhone photos are fine. And then we also want all raw footage, which will just allow me to edit it at a later date, mix and match. And then I think that's pretty good. That's all we need. Usage rights, we'll just put forever or in perpetuity. And then we've got core content messaging. So the first creative that we're going to do is for hikers. So the best socks for hikers. And then we're basically pulling all of the unique selling propositions of the alpaca socks across here, which seem to be quite consistent across all of the competitors. So this is where we want to come to our competitor section because a lot of them are using a lot of the same creative angles. And truthfully, the creative angles that everyone is using is going to be very similar across the entire sock industry. Like people selling merino wool, people selling, 100% cotton. They're all going to be using similar creative angles. Now, I'm going to kind of push the creative angle a bit more to the extreme here and try to use a little bit more statistics as well to really drive that home. So I'm actually going to use ChatGPT to kind of try to figure this out. I'm just asking what are some facts about alpaca as a material that is great for hiking, and we can check out some of the words that they're using. So excellent insulation in cold conditions. Let's go back to our creative brief and we've got core content messaging. So let's do best insulated socks for really cold walks. And then, so we've got best insulated socks for really cold walks, best for hikers. We know that we're targeting hikers, and the core content messaging is that it's just really great for cold walks. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make sure that we have a really good hook for this. So it's like, what's something that a hiker would feel in this moment? Now, one thing that you could definitely do here, which I'll just show you how to do, is we can just go to here and we'll just go Reddit cold feet hiking. And we can come to these Reddit forums And we can just see how the customer base actually communicates this issue. Because these stories that people are talking about on Reddit, lots of people have them. And that's kind of what the UGC creator is trying to tap into, the emotion of when these people have had those things. So, for example, they're using bottles with boiling water to heat their feet. For example, get toe warmers. So instantly we have, like, just for example, we've got sleeping booties. We've got the boiling water bottle. We've also got toe warmers. Now, we would need to validate more using hiker knowledge that is a common solution that people are using. But you can think of a hook there. You can think of common belief disruption as the hook. So people are like, let's say use toe warmers, for example. The way that you would do that is, let's say everyone's using toe warmers. You would grab the toe warmer as the hook and just say, stop using toe warmers. There's a better way to warm your feet. Because every single person that has ever used a toe warmer is going to watch that next, 10 seconds after that first 3 seconds, right? So we're trying to do pattern interruption, and we're trying to use cognitive dissonance between their existing beliefs already. And we can't do that without marketing research. We can't do that without understanding our customer. And this is where ChatGPT, studying competitors, Reddit, these all come in very, very handy. And the best place to find this in the future, which you'll find out, is your customers. Calling your customers after you get a couple is going to give you the best marketing angles possible, and surveying them. They're going to give you stories that you can pretty much either send them extra product to create the creatives, and they can tell their authentic, real story for it, which is super, super effective. And yeah, it just converts way, way better. So this is kind of what I'll go through. Let me just kind of finish off one brief that I can send off, and then I'll complete the other 3 in my own time. So I want to go to probably the most sleeping booties. This is an interesting comment as well, like word for word. Thick socks don't matter if they're damp. So if we were going to do, let's say, let's just call this the cold angle. Let's do another angle here, which is like wet/damp. And we'll just get rid of this. But I really like this as an angle. Thick socks don't matter if they're damp. Now, we know that the alpaca socks, the material is really good for moisture wicking. So that's going to be a really nice hook that we can grab there. So kind of building out all of these creatives in my head while I'm doing it. But I'm going to go back to this cold angle and try to come up with a hook. Sleeping booties. Sleeping booties aren't the best way to keep your feet warm. And then we can even have a bunch of other, of these stories kind of incorporated with it. We can do, we could also do the toe warmers, but look, I'm definitely going to have to do a bit more research and chat to a couple more hikers before I do this. Now, this is one of the benefits of actually getting a UGC creator that understands hiking for it, because they're going to correct me if I'm absolutely stupid about this. But I think that I'm going to do toe warmers. That seems to be a bit more obvious, and it's not going to be expensive for them to get that as like a prop within the hook. Toe warmers, brand do's and don'ts. All right, let's create this for it. So I'm actually just going to grab all of these do's and don'ts. You guys can copy them all as well. I think they're fine. Sweet. That all looks pretty good. And I think we want to increase this core messaging just because there needs to be a few more. Now, one thing that I didn't see in my market research was really highlighting why alpaca fur is so good for socks. And I assume, which we can again come back to ChatGPT. So I'm just asking, why is alpaca fur so good? Is it because they're in the cold? So this here is really kind of interesting. Like, they are based in the Andes in South America, which is obviously freezing. And it talks about the fiber structure of the fur itself. So this is kind of we've got features, benefits, and hook as well. So don't forget this. So the hook obviously is kind of what's capturing them. Then we can talk about the features of the socks, which would be like padded heel. Then we've also got the fact that it is alpaca fur. And then what are the benefits of that? Which is, we're not going to get cold feet during sleeping. Then there's kind of the how does it work? The people often overlook. Now, this is where we can use surveys, we can use scientific studies, peer-reviewed studies, and we can really dive deep. Now, one thing that you'll often see with the really good marketers is they'll use kind of 3D renders. You've probably seen people with foam rollers, selling foam rollers or something like that, and they'll show the spine and 3D render, and then they'll get a doctor to talk about the science behind everything. This is really a great way to reinforce the features and benefits that we've talked about and actually make people trust the process. The more language we can use around the hollow fiber structure, the rational reasoning around why alpaca fur is so good for it, it's going to be better. So we can kind of just grab this here. I don't want to grab too much, but I can just grab all of this. Then I'm going to copy this word for word. So I've just added that scientific explanation so they don't have to go find it. So we've also got best insulated socks for really cold walks / sleeping in socks. Now, there's probably someone out there that's saying don't sleep in your socks, but I think that's going to either trigger people during the ad, which might get us a bit more engagement. The best for hikers. Cool. How it kind of works. Then what else? We've got this resistance to moisture as well, which is this angled back here. Sweet. Just fleshing this out. Cool content messaging. So it's the best for hikers. I'm going to just get rid of the general saying it's the best for hikers because that's kind of this cold angle. Best insulated socks for really cold walks / sleeping in socks. So kind of jumping around a little bit, but that's just how my brain works. Some other hook variations. We could go back to Reddit, but I'm just going to think about it. Have your feet ever gotten cold on a really cold hike? Something like that. Have your feet ever felt like they are going to freeze off on a really cold hike? So just using a bit more dramatic language there to hook people in. Got the toe warmers, got that. So we're asking for 3 hook variations, so we probably want to give them 3 hook variations and ideas. We probably want to use something even more dramatic with the cold, because obviously people can kind of get, health issues from the cold of their feet. So we can just come back to ChatGPT, go, what are some main risks of your feet getting cold on hikes? So we've got frostbite, that's kind of an obvious one. Hypothermia, trench foot. We do have to be a little bit careful about the claims we're making, because I don't really want to go as far as frostbite because I don't know enough about it. It'd be a bit irresponsible. But blisters, obviously we know that the product can help blisters already. So we're combining 2 kind of features. We're keeping the cold hook, but we're also talking about blisters with it as well, which I think will be good. We know that's good. So did you know that cold weather, cold hikes can increase your chances of getting blisters due to the moisture? Cool. And then we've got that crazy hook, but then we've got the solution here as well. So this brief is starting to look pretty good. The one thing that I actually forgot to do is also the call to action. Call to action, which is basically what you need to say at the end. We might just put this in the deliverables as well, because sometimes you can actually ask for more than one call to action. 1 times call to action. So the call to action down here can be buy now at URL, like pretty much. And you can put anything there. You could even do like if you've got an offer, so like buy 1, get 1 free here as well. The other core content messaging, we might want to be like free returns as well. Free returns and exchanges. Or we could even go a little bit further and have our 100-day satisfaction guarantee, free returns. Cool. So this is starting to take shape. The way that I can see this ad going is the person goes, toe warmers aren't the best way to keep your feet warm. And then they go, did you know about, there's actual socks that are the best socks out there for this. You can either use them when you sleep or walk. And then how does it work? It's like alpaca fibers are partially hollow, which allows them to insulate more with air pockets. This sock is, and you don't really need to fill them in about your business too much. They're going to fill that in themselves. And then they're going to go, there's a 100-day satisfaction guarantee with these socks. You've got to try them. You can buy one, get one free here, or buy one at domain. That's kind of how the ad is going to play out. Now we're going to have the 3 hook variations that we're asking for, so we can kind of mix and match that. We might even just use their hook and then add a bunch of other footage that we're going to shoot ourselves on iPhone and use images, whatever. But yeah, realistically, we're going to get all of this in raw format. So across all of it, I think that there's some really interesting things for very experienced hikers. So it's worth saying this is a bit more experienced, because the beginner hikers probably aren't going on crazy cold hikes. I could be wrong about that. Again, I'm lacking a bit of knowledge in here, but I think the best way to get information is action. So yeah, how do we, what do we do now? Basically, we've got to copy and paste this whole brief, and we're going to go to one of these emails. So I'm going to come to this Gmail, and we might have to just actually screenshot this. This is probably why Google Docs was better to use initially, but we can put it here. And we've got the brief attached. Now, what will we say? We want to actually make this tailored. Now, ideally, you would actually use the email that is linked to your website. You want to use Davey at the Oodie to actually send it to them so they know you're not a scammer. And we can just do UGC creation alpaca socks. And the email can just be as follows. I'll give you this template. We just don't want to sound like a robot. So this creative here. For my brand, I'm just going to make this a template for everybody. You guys aren't going to be able to use this part, but that's okay. I'm just wondering if I leverage the Oodie. Cool. So we've got, hey Samantha, love your UGC on X. Your AI tool is just what we need. So just personalizing it so they know you're not just spamming them. I'm looking to get some UGC created, and you can just insert your brand name there. You're obviously going to have to delete this, but I would add a personalized thing about yourself here. You may already know me in the e-com space. My name is David Fogarty, and I grew the Oodie to 700 million sales. Yours might be up-and-coming dropshipper that has launched a couple of successful brands that have done $1 million in sales, whatever. Or, you know, I'm confident that I'm finally going to hit a winner. I don't know, maybe you've run an agency before. Just add something personal there so that they know that you're good. Attaches the brief that I'd love for you, to work with you on. There's plenty of long-term work and other creative angles we can do. Can you please outline your rate to complete this project? So they'll come back, and your estimated delivery time after the product arrives. So really putting a time constriction on these projects is important. Some of these UGC creators, they will just not send it for ages, and we're in a rush here. So next step is I'm actually going to send this to like 15 creators, because I want to find, you know, get the whole range of pricing and compare them all. Now, all I'm going to do to find these creators is I'm going to do UGC creator on TikTok and also influencers, searching them in. But I'm also going to really look hard for anyone that's done hiking or just looks like they're doing hiking, or someone just in the outdoor space, so I can make sure that I get someone that can authentically sell the product. But yeah, I'll let you know how they respond, and we can book some of them in. So pretty much what we're going to do is we've got all the talking points from just the copywriting, all of the stuff that we've been doing. We've got a shot list, right? Whenever you do user-generated content, the exact same way that we were briefing in these content creators, this is all they're doing. They're getting that brief that we're providing them, and I'm giving the brief to Alex today. And I'm just going to get him to say the words in different situations. We're also going to just be capturing footage in different situations, because we want all of this footage in Google Drive so that we can pull and match different hooks and different body footage as well. so that eventually we get a good creative. And I'm going to show you how to edit all of those videos as well. But yeah, realistically, we're just going to get started now. So it doesn't matter too much because it's user-generated content in terms of like quality. You want it to be visible, you want it to have good audio, but it doesn't need to be a very polished scene, if that makes sense. So we're just going to get started now. So obviously Alex is going to be filming himself a lot, but for the things that he can't film himself, I'm just going to film them now. And if you can not look at the camera, that would be really
Sorry.
Yeah. That looks really crisp. Stand up. Jump. Cool. So we want both we want close-up imagery, close-up videography, sorry, and we also went further away as well, because generally you're going to be like setting the scene and then showing things that are closer. Cool, now we're going to get him to grab the iPhone and put it on selfie mode. And the first talking point that we want, and we probably need to get the socks in it somehow, so maybe sit where you were sitting before and just basically be like, do your feet get heaps hot and sweaty, that hook, just something natural along those lines.
Yep.
These socks are a game changer.
Do your feet get hot and sweaty when you're on the tools? Well, these alpaca socks are made out of alpaca fibers, which is super smooth and cooling.
Yeah, that was good. Let's do it in two. Do your feet get super hot when they're on the tools? These socks are made out of alpaca fibers. Just get there.
Okay.
Sherlock, come out.
Let's be a start. Do your feet get hot and sweaty when you're on the tools? Well, these are the new alpaca socks.
No.
Wait, what was it?
These alpaca socks are made out of alpaca fibers.
Alpaca fiber, okay. Because of these fibers, it leads to less pressure and more ventilation, so your feet stay cooler throughout the day.
They're perfect for any tradie.
They're perfect for any tradie.
And now just give me a call to action, which is like, the crazy thing is there's a buy one, get one free sale at the moment.
Yeah. The crazy thing is these guys have a buy one, get one free right now, so go check them out.
Awesome, that was great.
Nice.
Obviously, if you can use a family member or a friend, but you can also use actors for this. Like a lot of brands are just using actors for their user-generated content because all they need to do is be convincing and all they need to do is memorize lines. Cool, I think that looks really good because you can see all the tools in the background, like the work site. Yeah.
So I'm on site right now and it's like 100 degrees outside, but here's my secret to staying cool all day. These alpaca socks. They're made out of alpaca fibers, which is way better than wool, way better than cotton. There's less compression, which means there's more ventilation, which means my feet stay cool all day. And the best part is they are moisture wicking, which means that you do not get blisters on your feet. And if you want these, they're a life changer. Go check them out on their website.
Boom.
That
was awesome. That was great.
Moisture wicking, is that the right term I use?
Perfect.
Okay, good.
That was good. I think that that's a good tradie angle. Let's get some just B-roll now.
Yep.
Of you. We probably need shorts, eh? Oh, there we go. Yeah,
I'll roll them up.
Let's get pretending on the tools.
Yeah. Do you have any tools, any saws, any hammers, nails?
Dude, I wouldn't even trust you with a hammer.
No. I'd probably swing it.
I trust you with a camera.
Is there a shovel I can pretend to shove dirt with? Surely they leave something around.
Oh, here's a staple gun.
No way.
It doesn't. Yeah. Put the gun closer to your foot. Yeah. Perfect.
Measure.
So that looks good. So now all we're going to do is we're just going to keep repeating that. Different hooks, different call out actions, different points that we're talking about with the socks, scenarios and stories that we've researched from our customer, getting Alex to repeat those. And I'm going to do that all for the tradie angle. But then we're going to go down to where I actually have alpacas as well, which is kind of lucky. And we're going to shoot some content down there for the hiking angle as well. We're going to shoot some longer form content, a little bit more polished. But yeah, we're also going to shoot some content using the animals as a props, because remember, we're just trying to get attention. We don't want to be like everybody else, everyone else's sock adverts. So yeah. So just see these alpacas behind me? They're not happy. And that's because I just made these socks from their wool.
Quick, they're going.
All right. You see these alpacas?
They're on that side.
You see these alpacas? You see how they're not happy? Well, I just made these socks out of their wool.
You need to frame them more. So you need to go fully horizontal and point at them.
Okay.
Yeah, like that.
You see these alpacas? They're not very happy. And here's why. I made socks out of their wool. Whether you're out for a day hike or tackling a multi-day trek, there's always one thing that seems inevitable. Here's the problem. Your socks are failing you. The truth is most socks aren't built for hikers. And when you're miles from camp, the last thing you need is a blister slowing you down. Oh my God. Let me just do that last one again. Let's just do that last one again. So what's next? Right now you can get Peak Textile Alpaca socks on sale. Click the link below and get yours today. And say goodbye to blisters, soggy socks, and foot pain.
Yeah, keep presenting and show the socks.
Yeah.
Cool. Go. Yeah, and hold them up a bit to your chest and then stretch them. Yeah, stretch them. There we go. So now we've got to edit the user-generated content that we just created. So typically, if you're using a UGC creator, they're going to send you a bunch of files. How do we organize them? How do we create different edits, different pacing, different angles, that kind of stuff? Now, you can actually just use your phone. You can go into Instagram editor and cut it up. You can also just use your phone for CapCut as well. And you can also use CapCut on your desktop, which I'm going to use today. I think using desktop is best because you can drag and drop and see the layers a little bit easier. But using your phone, it's going to make things feel very native as well because you're basically creating it in Instagram and the ad's going to be shown on Instagram. So don't be afraid to do that if you want to just completely free edit it. Now, I'm on CapCut Pro today. You don't need that necessarily, but sometimes you get certain features like enhanced voice that sometimes you want, especially if you're spending money behind these ads. But use the free versions if you don't have any money, as always. So I am now in CapCut here. So I'm going to go to all of the files that I shot, and I'm going to just find one that's nice and easy for me to edit without too many different files. So I'm just going to drag this one in. No, that's 2 seconds. So this version here. Now I'm just going to drag this file in and then I'm going to play it here. If you're wearing everyday normal socks, check this out. So really nice hook. People are kind of curious is like, why is he holding this sock? What's wrong with my everyday socks? Right. The only issue with this video is he doesn't look like a tradie. He wasn't wearing a high vis. He is in the tradie site, which will capture that demographic's attention. But like, we're going to have to just call that out using what's called a title. So pretty much with your editing the UGC, you have a few options. The first thing you can do is add titles, and then you can add captions as well. Captions are auto-transcribed of them speaking. This is because not many people are using audio when they're scrolling through Instagram. They're muted because they're in bed or something like that. So we want to add captions as well to capture their attention. But titles is something that they didn't say that you actually want it to say. And it can be very, very effective. Again, we want this to look native. So we want to use a similar title that you'll find on Instagram or TikTok. But yeah, the other thing with this video, I'll just fast forward here, is there's a really long pause here. You can't have any long pauses. Quick, like they should stop speaking and then start speaking again. There should be no, if you watch this start, he doesn't start speaking for like half a second, right? This is just too long. You want them to start speaking straight away. So these are the things that we can start tidying up here. So to cut things, by the way, guys, I'm not a CapCut editor. I'm just zooming in here so I can see where the audio lines are here, and we can just cut here. Okay, cool. So I'm just using the keyboard shortcut W to cut, but you can just click these things up here if you're confused. It's like you create a split and then you can just delete that bit. Oh, I just deleted the whole video. If you're wearing it every day, see, he's now speaking very quickly. So I'm just going to trim this first before adding any titles or anything like that. So this bit, I wish he was speaking during it. There's just too much silence. But anyway, that is what it is. I'm wondering if we can fix that in another way. But anyway, so this big silence here can be cut. So I'm just going to split this into two things. And then I can see the audio start speaking there. So I'm going to pull this all the way here. Now it should be gone. So it's on your feet. And then you have these out. See how much quicker that is? Then we got more silence here, which is not great. But anyway,
It falls right off because it's moisture wicking materials. It's hollow fibers, just like a real alpaca. When they're out in the rain,
sweet. So I think that's all good. So only 2 cuts in this one. Now, if you wanted to, you can add more footage over the top of this, like B-roll. Like when he says, just like a real alpaca in this, we could drag a real alpaca over it getting rained on. But I'm not going to do that for this one. I'm going to keep this super raw.
safe, dry, and safe from blisters. If you worry,
Cool. So now I've got that done. What I can do is I can add my captions. Now, ratios. Let's talk about this. So this is a 9 by 16. 9 across, 16. You always start with a cross. That is good for stories dimensions, but we want our ads to run on dimensions for 4 to 5 because that's what the Instagram feed is and the Facebook feed. But we also want to run it for 9 by 16 because we also want stories. So we're going to have to create 2 videos here. I'm just going to finish off the 9 by 16 and then I'm going to show you how to change it to a 4 to 5 as well and export both of them. So I want to come into text at the top and I want to create auto captions. This isn't a pro feature, which is good for those people that want to use it. So I'm just going to click generate, take a few seconds. So one thing that you'll notice about these captions is they're really long, like it just sits there and there's not enough movement. So it's just sitting there. Like you just want movement. You want to keep people with ADHD just watching pretty much. You want hyper dopamine content. So I'm going to click this. So you can highlight them all and then you've got all of the captions here. And I can just click enter and it will put it into a new line. And we just want 1 or 2 words. We want them to all be a similar length if possible. So like you can see this one's maybe a bit too long. Let me just see how that looks. It's cool. It's still too slow. So I'm going to start that again and do it a little bit smarter. Sweet. So I'm going to, if you're in your everyday, so I'm just going to keep it super quick like this. Spread all of these out. Stop letting them be a bit bigger here. And if you see any words that aren't spelt right, this is your time to change them. The Instagram editor is really struggles with. So brew alpaca, that's obviously just like an alpaca. We can add some like ... dots. Cool. Oh, keep clicking that button.
if you're wearing an everyday normal sock,
So it says if you're wearing, but that says if you're in. Sorry, this is a bit boring, guys. If you are, and we want it capitalized. If you're wearing your everyday normal socks. Cool.
if you're wearing your everyday normal socks, check this out.
Sweet. And then just click through, make sure it's all good. So that one's a bit too long. I'm going to cut that. Cool. And that should all match. Sweet. Now we can just highlight all of this and we're going to change it to a different caption. So this one looks pretty good. This one's used a fair bit. You can clearly see what's going on. Now, I just want one more title. So
If you're wearing your everyday normal socks, check this out.
I just want to add a text layer. Add text, default text.
If you're wearing your everyday,
And I'm just going to drag that down. And I just wanted at the start, just to, again, deal with that, like, who's this video for? The ultimate socks for builders. Cool. And now we want the background color to be, black. Then we want the background color to be white, because that's going to match, like, what Instagram is. So go white. And then we want it like that. Now it looks like that Instagram section. So we can drag this down a little bit and let's see how it looks.
if you're wearing your everyday normal socks,
Cool. We probably want it down a bit more. Then I'm 16, maybe shrunk a bit.
if you're wearing your
Boop.
if you're wearing your everyday normal socks, check this out.
Cool. I think that looks pretty good.
Oh,
I wonder if we can speed this bit up to make it look a little bit better. Let me just watch it through.
if you're wearing your everyday normal socks, check this out. Absorbs right into the sock,
That's going to be with you all day long. Sweaty, stinky, thin material that's going to build friction and build blisters on your feet. And then you have these alpaca socks, right?
Cool. I do wonder if we could do a little circle around that. Might just be a little bit distracting. The other thing we can do is we can actually increase the scale of this as well, zoom in a little bit more, which we can do with keyframes. Keyframes is actually a pretty important thing. I'll just show you how to do it. So that's actually going to make it blurry. So one other thing we can do is we can highlight this footage and we can add this image enhancement. I've just added it. And also you can add audio and you can go enhance voice because we want to make sure that the voice is very clear. But this video, we used the iPhone and it was pretty quiet. So it looks pretty good. So this is ready to export. So I'm just going to change this to 1080 to 1350. Click save. Now all I need to do with this one is increase